Welcome to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host today, joined by Tim, the Freedom Variant O'Connor.
What's up, Kevin? I'm here, man. The journalist. I'm the journalist, broadcast journalist, Tim O'Connor.
Broadcast journalist. You're going to insist on that one, huh?
Maybe.
Maybe.
I
We'll
don't know.
see. Maybe it'll be different next week. We'll see.
Well, maybe. I'm making people mad because I don't really like salmon. Kind of
Yeah.
strange.
No, you're trying to get the rage engagement there.
It's working.
Listen, we were talking about before. I'm pretty sure you're just cooking it wrong. Like salmon could be good. Like, are you like cooking it well done? Like leaving,
No, I'm a chef, man. I'm a good cook. I found some check it out. I found some maple syrup. I was redoing my countertops, so I had to open up a cabinet and clean it all out. And I found some old maple syrup that I made like 3 years ago, and it doesn't have mold in it. So I took the salmon and I put it on the grill on my new gas stove, right? And I'm seasoning it up and I'm warming it up, and I'm putting a little glaze of maple syrup on it, and then I throw it in the oven and bake it for a few minutes. And it's like, I still need to catch up. I'll be honest with you.
Catch up.
My kid loves it though. He's pretty
salmon?
happy.
I don't know. Yeah.
Wrestler food, man. I never wrestled.
No, well, yeah, it's still a good source of protein. I don't know. I used to hate like all fish, and then I don't know, started liking salmon, just the lightly like air fried or pan fried salmon.
Yeah, I like fried haddock, like covered with breadcrumbs, and then you take it, put it on a
In
roll,
stick
and then
of bread, so you don't taste the fish.
Yep, and then you just smear it. You smear it with tartar sauce. Just like, I don't know, I don't really like mayonnaise and stuff that much either. But like when it comes to haddock, you just smear it. You smear it like end to end with like an inch thick of tartar sauce. It's delicious. It's absolutely delicious.
It is good. I love doing a fish fry. Again, used to totally hate it. Used to think I hated fish because my experience with fish was like, oh, it's like cheap fish sticks. That was my experience of that. But I know. Anyway, this is not a show about cooking salmon or any other fish. We do have some actual serious issues to talk about, and we're going to get to the actual radio portion of the show in a minute. And hey, Shelly, thanks for being here. Cook pork chops and applesauce, and
she's right.
Great.
I do that. She's right.
Does sound good. And like eating lessons for kids.
I'm here. Yeah, I'm here for you, buddy.
And I mean, I got my short ribs going right now, even though I swear like beef short ribs are like 95% fat, and then you get like a quarter ounce of meat out of it.
It's worth it.
I'm making some short rib poutine though, so like it's gonna be good.
It's worth it.
But so in a minute we're gonna start the show. We're gonna talk about the Tyree Nichols thing. We're going to talk about Governor Hochul's hypocrisy. We might talk about education funding, maybe a few other things. I don't know. We'll see. But if there are any other topics that y'all listening want to talk about that we need to be talking about, let us know. And of course, we might get to. I think we're going to get to fake news today. I have a couple fake news things.
I have a poll that I want to share with everybody. It's an amazing poll that we're going to save it for the show. It's important.
I'm excited to hear about timely. It. All right, we'll go in 5.
Now, an hour of clarity for exhausted people of our nation mired in toxic partisanship. Left versus right, us versus them. While we pay to keep our politicians fighting, how do we, the people, rise up and solve the great challenges of our time? We do it by embracing freedom and liberty. There may be no such thing as a free lunch, but this hour is as close as it gets. Welcome to A Free Solution.
All right, welcome to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, host today, joined by Tim, the Freedom Variant / alleged broadcast journalist.
Alleged. I like that. That's good. Again, if Brian Stelzer or whatever that guy's name is can be a broadcast journalist, then so can I. And that's the reality.
I'm not going to bother looking that up or defining it. Just you just got to call yourself that. It's fine.
Yeah.
You do what you want.
I identify as a broadcast journalist.
Go with that one. There you go. Yeah, Babylon B. Anyway, we're not going to go down that road today. No, not today. No, today we're going to talk about. We got a couple serious issues to talk about. We're going to talk about the Tyree Nichols thing. We're going to talk about Governor Hochul. We'll talk about some education stuff if we can get to it. And of course, we're going to talk about fake news. We haven't done fake news in a little bit now. So we have some fake news items. I'll even queue up the fake news like theme. See
Oh,
if I can get
cool.
it going on the online version too. We'll see what we can do. But of course, we're streaming online live show, recording this Tuesday evening. So if you're listening to this on WYSL on Thursday evening, thank you for being here. We're so glad you're joining us. If you want to comment in on the live show, participate in the discussion, you got to listen Tuesday nights at 9 on the Free Solution Facebook page, Free Solution YouTube channel, Kevin Wilson pages, Tim O'Connor pages, one of those places. That's where we do the live stuff. And that's where, when you're hearing us reading off comments and whatnot, that's when we're doing that.
Yeah. We love our guests. We love the people that make the comments. It makes the show for me.
Yeah, no, that's what makes it fun. It's the folks listening and the folks participating in the show. It makes it way more entertaining when we have that interaction, that feedback. So keep the comments coming. We have Shelly out there, we have Jared out there. Thanks so much for listening, and I know we have a few other folks who are listening in as well, Brian and Robert. Well, anyway, we'll get to like the serious issue that we wanted to talk about today, which is the Tyree Nichols thing. Now,
yeah,
they did release the video, and you said you watched the video. I mean, do you want to go over quickly like what you saw in that and kind of what the incident is?
Let to start with, right? Like Tyree gets yanked out of his car. He's sort of complying, sort of not complying. He's kind of like, "Why are you guys doing this to me?" And they start kind of thumping on him a little bit, and they start tasing him like right away, right? And he was probably at some level, I would say, non-compliant at that time, right? But then he runs off. They catch up with him, and dude, they issued a beatdown. Like I mean, they his hands were behind his back. They were punching him in the face. There's 5 guys on him, and look, man, 5 guys were doing the wrong thing. 5 guys were doing the wrong thing. Okay, and it was so sad to see human beings treat other human beings. At this point, he's defenseless, right? And they are just one guy. I think one guy is having a rage problem, right? Because this kid outran him, because this kid made him look bad, and he's popping him in the face while another guy is holding both of his hands behind his back. And as Tyree tries to avoid the blows, he's circling around, he's circling left, he's circling right. This big guy is running around, popping him in the face just as hard as he can. And then they get him on the ground and they're kicking him. And guys, there's just this. I don't know. It was so, when I see these things, and sometimes I wish I don't watch them, right?
Yeah.
My heart bleeds, right? I don't know what to do. It fills me with anger. It fills me with rage. I don't want this to be a possibility. How do we fix it, Kevin? That's the question, right?
No, it's awful. And just add, a few more details to that too. Like the whole thing like took place over the course of like 13 minutes. Like it was a long time for the beatdown to take place. There's also other weird details. Like one guy at one point like stops and like ties his shoes during this thing and then continues on. Like there's, so like it kind of, undermines any narrative of like they had to do this. Like there's no urgency there. They didn't have to do this. They, and even some of the stuff where he's like resisting, it's like he's terrified that these guys are gonna beat him to death, and it turns out there's good reason to think that.
Yeah, let me just say, like, he was minimally non-compliant, and for some reason they lost control of him, and I don't understand how that happened. Like from the videos, that was unclear how he got up and ran away. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
He was already kind of like cornered and
He'd been
like
tackled, tased, pepper sprayed,
yeah.
They're
They're
how are these
moving.
guys who are on like especially they're on like the Scorpion unit, like how are they like not able to like get control of the situation in any sense? Like again, it escalated way quicker than it needed to. They weren't able to de-escalate effectively, and weren't able to physically contain him, and again just turned into
that to me, this de-escalation that we talk about, and people who back the blue get incensed, right? When we say things like de-escalation, they that's where they start going, you guys are like liberals, okay? Like there's something wrong with you. De-escalation is a valuable technique. I learned to de-escalate stuff when I was a child protective services worker. It's an important method of communication. People give you all sorts of information when you de-escalate a situation, when you work around their anger. And de-escalation, I saw in Rochester, guys, a year and a half ago, a cop tased a 9-year-old girl because she was a little bit
Yeah.
non-compliant, right? Do you remember that?
No, sure
Oh
do.
my
Man,
God, it
that's
was brutal. She's having a fit. They're
it was
trying to
pepper
get her.
sprayed. It wasn't tased, but still.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
But still, pepper spray, there's just no reason to pepper spray an actual child.
That's what I thought. She was a tiny little girl having a really, really, really bad day, probably coming from an abusive home. The issue that there was a female and a male officer. It looked to me when I watched that video that the female officer just about had it under control. And the girl acted up one last time, and the male officer stepped in, pepper sprayed the girl. They handcuffed her to the seat. I mean, it's just
Yeah, right? Like, again, you can't expect, like, a kid on her worst day ever to, like, be totally chill about, like, this interaction, right? Like, you just it is what it is. Like, and even, like, normal people, normal adults, like, it is on police officers who have to experience this stuff all the time, who have to see people on their worst day to say, like, okay, my training shows me how to get someone down, and that can save police officers' lives too, right? It's like
sure.
if you escalate and then they do have a violent reaction to that escalation that sometimes police officers have caused. Again, this isn't a statement about all cops, but there's some ones who, like, they egg people on, they get mad, they get caught up in the heat of that moment too, and that puts themselves, it puts the people around them in danger, and the person they're trying to detain in danger too. They put everyone in danger.
That's the issue, and unfortunately, Tyree Nichols, yeah, whatever. I don't know why they pulled him over. At least Kevin. The good news is that it's coming to light. Now again, check out systemically, right? They've just fired 2 EMS workers right earlier today. Okay,
Yeah,
for trying to cover up what happened here. And so this is how the system, we talk about the system supporting itself and taking advantage. These guys are all in this together, and we're at the outsides of that. And I wish that it wasn't that way. And I'm not saying, like, I locally I don't think this stuff would happen, right? Like I have friends that
yeah,
are police officers. I know that they wouldn't participate in stuff like this. I know they would do the right thing. But there's an we talk about ending qualified immunity. Our Governor Hypocrite Hochul, is like sending out thoughts and prayers like it means anything. She's in a position of political power. She could actually do something about furthering the notion of qualified immunity. But I'm going to tell you this right now. The reason why she doesn't want to is because it could blow up in her own face. Okay. That she's protecting other politicians and the system, because the system, if we do away with qualified immunity, it's only a matter of time before we do away with it for everyone, including politicians.
right. So you threw out a whole bunch of stuff that some of which I wanted to comment on, right? Like, so we'll back up and talk about the Tyree Nichols thing. Then we're going to get the Governor Hochul, because there's a situation, right? You had I think it was the 5 police officers who were initially charged with this. That's where they released the video. The Memphis, Tennessee, like, again, they released it. They released everything. They knew it was going to be bad, right? Like, a lot of cities, like not just in Memphis, but elsewhere, they're preparing for protests. They're expecting this to be like a George Floyd level thing, right?
Sure.
Like, people were, concerned that people were going to be very upset with this, and the video is upsetting, right? It's understandable without that. A few more police officers were suspended from duty, same with the EMS folks as well. Because, like, part of it's like even the people who weren't directly participating in that beatdown, there are people there who are, like, watching, letting it happen. And I know you talked about, like, it, like, you wouldn't think that would happen locally, but that's the thing you worry about, right? It's like people have to make a very tough decision, right? Do you stand with the people that you put your life in danger with every day, with your brothers and sisters? Do you do that, or do you, like, do the right thing when they are doing something evil to another human? Do you intervene to stop that, right? Which could cause you to be ostracized from your team, from your profession. Like, there are police officers who get kicked out of their force. They get driven out
Sure. For telling the
because
truth, right?
yeah, for telling the truth. They're saying, like, no, this
Yeah.
shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have happened this way, because you don't betray your team, right? and that's unfortunately something that can happen, right? Like again, you get like this team mentality that
Yeah.
and again, I'm not part of it, so like I don't fully understand that, but that's like the mentality you get like when you've separated yourself into a distinct group that has the legitimate monopoly of violence over other people, and when you see that power get abused, which happens way more often than we'd like to think, do you do something about it? And what are the costs of doing something about it?
And what are the mechanisms, right? Like everybody's seen the cop shows about going to internal affairs and the internal affairs taking a good cop and making a bogus case against him because they need to have some work product. So
Right.
like I get the confusion about it, man. We need a self-correcting mechanism, and
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's you know, no, it's TV, but that's something that does happen. There are famous cases of that happening. And that was kind of the idea with why Rochester created its police accountability board is so like, okay, for these accusations of someone doing something maybe not this extreme, but something that's maybe a little bit lower level, like that situation with the 9-year-old being pepper sprayed, right? Like something like that, that there'd be a more objective third party group of people who would be able to look at that and decide like, okay, is this something that disciplinary action should be taken on? Now again, they had their teeth removed in Rochester. They can't really like impose discipline. It still has to, they can investigate and reveal the results of their investigation. They can't punish directly. That has to come from the police still. And B, politically they're just a mess.
it
Like,
was a train wreck. You and I did a show
dude,
about
yeah,
it, believe it or not, right? Like, it's just a
total
mess.
mess.
They didn't
Which
know where
again
to
bums me
start.
out because like I like the idea of like what this wanted to be, and just God, goofy like left wing politics and sleazy people got involved, and it is total disaster.
And look, man, there's power hungry narcissists everywhere, and they see an opportunity and they go in and they just muck things up. So
Yeah,
we're in a weird quantum flux kind of state when it comes to our politics. We On one hand, I know some of them want to do the right thing. I know people out there, politicians, are trying to do what they perceive to be the right thing, but their perception, from my perspective, is somewhat screwed up, Kevin. You
yeah,
know that I think that it's weird.
yeah. And so before we get to a couple of these comments, though, I want to return back to what Kathy Hochul said, so we
Oh
can
yeah, let's
we
make
can
fun
dunk
of
on
her
her.
because she's horrible, bro.
So
She's just
Kathy
the worst.
Hochul, she puts out this tweet the other day. She says, "My heart breaks for the Nichols family and Memphis community. I'm outraged to see yet another life taken by police brutality in this country. This system is in need of repair, and I stand in solidarity with those demanding better as we work to build a more just nation for all." Now, that in and of itself like is a fine statement if it weren't for the fact that last week, which we were dunking on her for last week, she said she could not support qualified immunity reform.
Yeah,
Last
and she
week
got all
she
virtue
could do something
signaling,
about
right?
it.
And she was like attacking the reporter for asking her about it. You're like,
Yeah,
you're disgracing a profession, and you're disgracing
yeah,
yourself. Like that's not a conversation. That's not how politicians should be answering tough questions. And look, man, she's an authoritarian. She's a psychopath, and that's a reality, bro.
that's how
Like
you really
that's
feel.
who she
That's
is.
No, but like it's just good. The system is deeply in need of repair, and I stand in solidarity. What do you want to do about it, Kathy Hochul? Besides virtue signaling, like that's great. Like I'm glad you feel bad for this family because that's awful. It is a terrible thing where the state kills someone, right? Like that is what happens. You are in a position to do something about it. You can help fix this problem, but she won't.
But she won't because the fix could put her or some of her cronies or some of her friends in the crosshairs of a revocation of qualified immunity. That this qualified immunity
Yeah,
doctrine protects all government officials to some level as long as they were purportedly operating within the bounds of their job, I guess. I don't know how to
right.
explain it, but
Well, yeah, right. Like I mean, if you're as long as you haven't violated the constitutional rights of someone as proven by a previous court case, there's no civil liability to be had. Basically,
Thank you.
which again goes against the law that was created to address this issue back in the Civil War days. Totally made up doctrine by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court would have to undo it, or Congress could undo it, and states can undo it. But yeah, they don't want to. Maybe New York State will make some progress on it, but again, if it doesn't have the governor's support, it needs to overcome a veto. It might not happen, unfortunately. And there, there are folks who are pointing out like logic. I can't say this verbatim, but Hochul's scared of police unions, and that's what that could be, right? And yeah, no, that's
yeah. We've given the police union a lot of power. And look, man, big pools of money getting tossed around. That's what a union is, right? So yeah, of course she's scared. They could have easily tossed their support behind Lee Zeldin, and they were, I think, pretty ambivalent this year, like as to who they were going to pick. But I think they came down on the side of Kathy Hochul, right?
I don't remember. That's a good question. I should look up to see where they came down on. But it's funny because like I don't know why. I don't know. I don't know why she wouldn't like support this relatively modest reform. Like it's turned into like a big thing, but it's relatively modest reform. Other than the fact that what you pointed out is like, could this eventually evolve into something like where politicians who enact something could then be held civilly accountable for their actions in an executive capacity, right?
Right.
Someone else responsible for the consequences of their actions in the New York State bureaucracy or at the executive level. When that other than elections, right, which is really the only way like we have any measure of accountability, unless someone does something like egregiously criminal, and even then, who knows if anything will actually come of it.
The issue, guys, one of the, and I love to talk about this. I don't know how much time we have, Kevin, but one of the issues is that we see these things that are absolutely obviously corrupt and should be illegal. And guess what? They're not. They're completely legal, guys. They danced around the law. Hunter Biden, all that stuff. He did nothing illegal. I hate to tell you this. He followed all the right paperwork. Everything's kosher.
Probably not.
Totally corrupt, man.
Yeah. I mean, there might be something there, but like so far, most of it, the stuff that he's done just is shady and gross and,
You never hear him talk about fixing that system. Like, you know what we should do? Make what Hunter Biden did here illegal in the future. Because you know why? Because all of their family and all their friends are all involved in that kind of selling access to the U.S. government and the U.S. government's checkbook. That's
right.
Guys, that's government right there. That's their product.
Part of it. That's just networking, right? That's all that is.
What's that?
It's just networking. That's legit, right?
High level networking with big piles of cash, bro. That's all it is. That's why we'd be really good in government.
Great. All right. So we do have to head to a break, though. Thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Talk to you soon. Oh man, I forgot that I added in some of the music. Now we could do some of the music on our
oh cool
going out. So you get this if it keeps up.
I love it.
See if I could I'll save me some editing time too.
It will.
Except for this is going a little bit slow. It's catching up.
Pretty hot though. Man, oh man, we're going nationwide, guys.
Guys, like production value going up.
It's going up.
You're gonna see it here. You're gonna see it happening. Yeah. No. Let's see if I can remember what each of these are. But maybe we'll do some going back in music.
Do that. Bumper music.
Yeah. Oh, I got the bumpers in here. And all right. And so I think we'll probably just save this for. But when we come back, we'll talk about like Shelly's comment in here.
Yep.
So we'll do this for the radio portion of the show. Talk about the liability insurance. And I'm assuming there should be a should in there, but we'll talk about that. And And we
Right.
got, thought there's another comment, but I don't remember which one.
This one, I want to talk about this one.
Okay, yeah, we'll talk about that. Talk about that too. Get all those. But yeah, anyway, so we'll go back at 25:30. This time we'll go back in 10 seconds. Let's see. All right, welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Thanks again for joining us here on this. Well, if you're listening to us on WYSL this wonderful Thursday night, if you're listening to us on the internet, it's Tuesday nights. But either way, thanks for joining us. We got a couple more comments that we wanted to get to.
The chat is on fire tonight, guys. If you want to be part of this show directly, you got to join us on Tuesday nights on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, all over the interwebs, guys. The interwebs is everywhere.
It is. Well, let's get to a couple of these comments. So I'll talk to let's do Shelly's comment first. Shelly on YouTube says, this is why law enforcement officers carry liability insurance. I think she means should there, like the majority of professional jobs require. Screw up too much and they'll learn their insurance, lose their insurance, and then without insurance, their job, right? And we talked about this as a solution last week too, right? It's a lot of other professions, if you're doing something that's dangerous, that if you screw up your job or hurt someone, like it imposes a cost on others. Like doctors require this. A lot of like trade professions require some form of insurance as well. You screw up someone's electricity in their house, you need to be insured to cover that, because it can be dangerous. You screw up doctrine, the consequences can be pretty serious. Law enforcement officers, they don't carry that same individual liability insurance. You can sue the city. And that's what we're talking about with qualified immunity. It doesn't prevent criminal charges from happening against law enforcement officers. It just prevents individuals from being civilly sued for the actions that they took and having to pay out damages because of that, right?
Yeah, correct. And guys, look, we're not saying that the police officer necessarily has to come out of his. It's not out of his pocket, right? The community provides that insurance for this guy, either in higher salary or direct compensation for the insurance. Like, however that system has to work, that's a responsibility that we would bear as a community. But if their costs get out of line, they have to go, and their costs get out of line if they lose cases and hurt people.
Right. Yeah. It could be up to like the individual law enforcement officer to cover that, if that's the arrangement, or the union or the city. But either way, someone has to cover that individual, not just, oh, the taxpayers will pay out for this. And then they'll maybe lose their job, maybe, but not always, and go to another police department and do the same thing. Right. Because then if they move, the insurance companies can be like, all right, well, let's look at the record. And they go, whoop, nope, we don't want to insure that person because they are a liability. They're going to cost us money and probably hurt someone. No, thank you. Or if we do cover them, it's going to cost you a lot. And cities might make a different decision then. So I know you want, go ahead.
Yeah, they have to make a better decision then, right? Like this self-correcting mechanism, I think Logic pointed it out. Can an argument be made for revocation of qualified immunity as to be seen as self-correcting in a way? I think that on some level, that's what I was trying to say. I'm not sure if I was.
I think that's what we're saying here,
absolutely, right? Revocation of qualified immunity would help us find bad police officers easier, faster, and with it less, hopefully, overall injuries. Like, I feel bad sometimes because, like I said, I know police officers, but there are bad cops out there. There is a culture that you have to be concerned with. It's a real issue.
Yeah. And this is slightly off topic, but generally I think private companies, when their money is on the line, when you make this about like their profit, they're going to act a lot quicker to like make change happen. Right. That's
absolutely.
And so I made, like, again, slightly off topic, but I made an argument that was kind of similar to this in terms of addressing a problem with an Airbnb in my neighborhood. Right. So like there's a shooting at an Airbnb in my neighborhood. 5 people were shot there. Like, awful, serious issue that happened, like something I could literally see from my window. Terrible situation. And a bunch of people started being like, you know what we got to do? We got to ban Airbnbs. Like, we'll
Yeah.
just, like just blanket ban. We're gonna prevent them from doing that, or we need some other sort of government reform where we limit the number, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Before people were even having this conversation, the person who owned that Airbnb was removed from the platform because A, they're not allowed to have parties. B, they, if you have a violent incident associated with your property, Airbnb is hesitant to let you continue using that platform. Now, if it's not your fault, you can get it restored. But Airbnb is like, nope, we're not messing with this. Kick them
Yep.
off immediately. And I pointed out in the comment section, like, guys, like, this private company already acted. Like, if you wait for city council to act on this, A, it would take forever. B, there's going to be a bunch of unintended consequences to like this drastic action that you're taking. And I think it's the same thing with like the whole police accountability and violence debates. Like, we could do this and we could punish individual bad officers very quickly instead of like some of these sweeping reforms where we have to fund the police, or gosh, the opposite. You know what? Police only act in this way because we don't fund them enough. Or
That's typical kind of response. It's just so bad. Like, throw money at the problem. Give them more training. It's like, I don't know,
it's
man. Like,
it's like a
it
bunch of
hasn't
like
worked.
moderate conservatives and neoliberals saying this. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like, what was it? Matt Iglesias was going on about it. I'm like, you want to throw more like Rochester Police Department's already one of the best funded police departments in the country, and I don't know. I know people don't believe me when I say that, but it really is. Like, we spend a lot per officer here, and we
Yeah.
still have issues. Like, maybe it's more fundamental, or you need a better accountability mechanism.
Pepper spraying a 9-year-old. You got to get paid to do that. Like, you got to
Well,
earn your
better
money.
training. We'll fix it with better training.
So
Even though I don't know if you saw a tweet thread too about the training where they said, like, if you're ever involved in this, like, say drop your weapon no matter what's happening, and witnesses will assume that like it was reasonable to think that the person that you are shooting had a weapon, even if they didn't have one. I'll see if I can find that thread on that.
yeah, that would be an interesting one for us to break down.
Yeah, but yeah, that
Here's
was
Do
go
you
ahead.
see this comment I put up from Jared? When will departments learn that if you start a high-speed I'm going to add paramilitary unit, you get
Yeah.
high-speed paramilitary outcomes? I so look, I get militarization of your local police is an ongoing concern. They're getting all sorts of high-tech equipment. They're getting guys super trained. Yeah, I wonder. I mean, I wonder. I think it's a fair concern.
Yeah. 100%. Man, I can't find this tweet thread though. But yeah, no, that's part of it, right? It's the whole like when everything you know, when all you have is hammer. Gosh, I'm gonna script it. When
Everything
all you
looks
have
like
is
a nail.
everything looks like a nail. Oh
Yeah.
man, stumble over. This is not an alcoholic drink, by the way. I'm not.
It should be
It
then.
looks
It
like
should
it.
be.
It's not. Um, just struggling.
Yeah.
But
When
yeah,
you're a
like
hammer,
but right, yeah.
everything
If
looks
you
like a
develop
nail.
all these, special units like in paramilitary police tactics, like SWAT units in areas where like maybe you don't actually need it. Sometimes you do, but like a lot of times it ends up getting overused. These no knock raid tactics, like all that type of stuff. That wasn't exactly what happened in the Tyree Nichols case.
No.
Although it was like again Scorpion unit, it stood for basically like a neighborhood focused policing unit, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like that was kind of like a trendy thing where like people would want to have like neighborhood focused beat cops to like kind of know an area really well and be able to build relationships in the community, which is I think maybe part of the intention of that as I understood it, but maybe I'm misunderstanding it. I don't know.
Close enough for me.
Yeah, there you go. Well, as long as I got your approval, then
Well,
that's good.
sometimes I lack precision, anyways, and for the sake of a good conversation, sometimes precision is like it's runs counter to a good conversation. So close enough. We got somebody bringing up civil asset for forfeiture, which guys, I there's another area where we can talk about qualified immunity and the process that these guys go through. They take people's money, they take people's cars, they just
Yeah. Well, yeah. And so let's do thing. One, let's read this comment from YouTube from
yeah.
Logic here. He says, quote, I wonder if adding in and flipping civil asset forfeiture on its head, taking a cop's assets to cover as a form of compensation in a civil case will work as well. I mean, maybe not so directly, right? Like what happens in civil asset forfeiture is that a police department will make an accusation about you and say, hey, we think you're selling drugs and we think that you're using your car to sell drugs. So we're going to preemptively take your car because we think that was used in a crime. And they take this with very, very little due process, if any at all. And it happened actually here in the Rochester area in Greece. Something similar. They took like $6,000 because they could take cash too. They're like, we think that this may be funds from illegal activity, so we're going to just take your money and you can try to request to get it back. But maybe you
That,
do, maybe it takes years, maybe they sell your things before they
yeah.
even because they'll
That
auction off like boats and houses and cars and all sorts of stuff before anyone has a chance. There's some awful kids. The Institute for Justice has some like really interesting and heartbreaking and awful cases on civil asset
yeah,
forfeiture. They
so
do amazing work on that.
that Rochester one you brought up has an interesting twist. Okay. That $6,000 did not belong to the parolee. These were parole officers that were going in there, right?
Yeah.
They found $6,000 at this guy's girlfriend's house. And the goal, it was in cash, and the goal was to take it and split it up amongst the officers.
Yeah.
That was awful. They were caught on tape talking about it. The girl parole officer that brought it up has, I think, been fired, and then the guy that was in the room with her has been suspended with pay pending an investigation. But I got to be honest, they are caught red-handed talking about putting that cash in their pocket. Like
Yeah. And
literally.
yeah, usually it's not so on the nose. Like
No, I
usually
know, but this one
there's
was
like
awful.
like kind of the illusion of like legitimacy where it's like, oh, well, we think this was used in a crime. That's why we're seizing your grandmother's house.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. I mean,
and like it sounds like I'm joking about that, but that was a real case. That actually happened to someone.
there's hundreds of them. I saw a
Yeah.
guy driving like to go buy a car. He had $75,000 in cash. He got pulled over for like some sort of maybe speeding or violation. They took the $75,000 and said, "Yeah, we don't we this could be used for a drug thing. So sorry."
Could be used for and there's another case in Rochester recently where that happened where it was someone who had like a food stand and something similar is like they just took that because like her like ex-boyfriend or something was like accused of a crime. Absolutely ridiculous.
I
So
yeah.
I mean, like, yeah, like Logic, I appreciate you bringing up the civil asset forfeiture thing. Like, I don't know if it's gonna work in like a similar way where like there's gonna be an accusation of a crime and they will hold assets because of that accusation. And to be frank, I don't really want that actually. Like, I want due process to work on both sides of this, right?
Yes.
Like, I don't want like us to be like, oh yeah, you're accused of a crime. We're gonna steal your house and like sell it now. Like, I just want if there is a credible accusation of a crime for police officers to go through the due process that like any other person has for civil liability. And if they are found to be responsible, that they ought to pay out on an individual basis or an insurance basis for an action they are responsible for to make the victim somewhat more whole.
I'm with you.
You're with me. All
Yeah,
right, good.
I'm with
I'm
you.
like, yeah, like it seems reasonable to me, right? Like that's
Yeah. If I see another reasonable comment, like this would be a better form of policing, but this is where the back the blue crowd misses when people say, "Hey," and the other side saying defund the police. Okay, this is where they get it wrong, right? This would be the neighborhood focus. A comment from our friend Jared: if you want neighborhood focus, coaching sports on the clock, rec opportunities, participating in stuff like that, that to me, Kevin, I don't know how you feel about it, but money's
yep.
getting spent no matter what. These are things that I find would have value, that would be valuable to the community, that would provide an officer like a nice breakup of like, hey, I'm gonna go coach, soccer for a couple hours and get paid for it. It would already the de-escalation is happening if we can get get these guys involved in that. And yeah, we're already spending the money, man. Pay them. You know what I mean? Why not?
It's a way to
I'm
do it.
cool with it. Let's defund the police that way, guys. Fund them to do cool stuff in the community. I think they'd enjoy it.
I mean, it's a thing that happens sometimes. I have mixed feelings about it. Like sometimes it's good. Like I used to work at a child care center, and there'd be like police would come in and read and interact with kids, and like again, kind of make their presence known. There is a legitimate community building aspect that could be put into policing. It's just again, if you don't fix some of the other things, like
I
that just ends up being good PR rather than an actual solution.
I get it. No, I get it.
Yeah.
I just feel like I loved coaching kids when I was younger, and like if I had gotten paid to do it, like it would have been a little bit better. But I could see where that would help police officers acclimate to a community better instead of. I think sometimes they feel like they have to set themselves outside of their communities to run, to be in charge and keep people safe. They can't interact, and I think that may be an approach I would like to see changed.
Yeah, 100%. All right. So I think we went over time a little bit. My bad on not watching the clock close enough. But thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. If you're listening on WYSL, we're going to head to a break. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Talk to you soon. All right. So, and we'll do fake news when we come back, but let's get a couple of these comments during the break.
Yeah.
Well, starting with this one because we were talking about civil asset forfeiture stuff. Lodge says, "Of course, agree. Wouldn't want cops lied on either. I'm not for cops getting hit with frivolous lawsuits either. Never been defund police or ACAB, but I am very sick of bad cops too. 100%, man. Yeah, let's. Yeah,
Yeah, and maybe it's social media is letting us know that they're out there, but it is definitely like it, that may be hopefully a benefit of social media instead of a negative thing. The Daniel Shaver case, the
oh
Duncan
man,
Lemp case, these things are even Breonna Taylor, all of these things are demonstrating that there's issues with the way that we do things. And guys, there's some that aren't even famous that where I see an 18-year-old kid got shot in his bed one day. It just
yeah."
yes,
Like you just I don't know if you're thinking of the same one, but the one where he was like sleeping on his couch. The no knock raid comes in. He like stands up and is like, "What the heck's going on? Someone's breaking into my house," and they shoot him. They're like, "Oh, we thought he was armed."
yeah, I saw that one. This was a different one.
A different one.
Believe it or not, similar circumstances. 5 cops in a kitchen. The kids' bedroom's right off the kitchen. They kick open the door. They let the dog go, and this older cop put a bullet right in the kid. Right, done. It
Jeez.
it was just, and I mean, I didn't see a gun. They the kid was, and that's the thing. 2 o'clock in the morning. All right, there's an emotional charge going along with busting into somebody's house at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Oh, so that's what happened with the Breonna Taylor case, right? It's like they're like, "Oh, in that case, like her boyfriend did shoot back, right?" But again, he's like, "Someone's breaking into my house and shouting, and he's terrified, thinks he needs to defend himself."
And another cop shot into at somebody else's apartment, the wrong apartment. Okay, like
Yeah.
he was coming around the back, or what he thought was the back. Like that part of the story kind of got covered up. Like he lost his job, he got in big trouble, but he shot at somebody sleeping on a couch, like in a different apartment. Okay,
Right.
like that was a zoo that night. Like
Yeah,
and
just a total mess. Shouldn't have happened at all. Like, bad accusation. I don't know. It was weird. Like, I remember, uh, you guys could hear it on like a past episode when that happened. I was talking with Bob Savage, producer show, and he's like, "Oh, well, he shot at a police officer, so like he deserved it, right? He's a criminal." I'm like, "What? No, man! Like all the Second Amendment people on here, like they would react the exact same way that people busting into their house at that time of night and not announcing themselves properly." Like, don't tell
I
me
mean,
they wouldn't. No
they
way.
you would expect them to. They would expect to. That's why they have guns. Like that's what they do. Like I don't know.
Yeah,
I
you
don't
don't
like
announce
no
yourself.
knock
You don't know
raids.
if it's police officers or a gang or like whatever, right? Like,
Right, right.
you know,
And anyways, do away with black markets as much to the best of our ability, and a lot of these things would go away.
100%. Get to a couple more of these. Shelley says, brain injured man who is nonverbal for the most part had a bad experience with an officer. Both he and the officer could have been much more professional. in the encounter. Yeah, no, it's a serious thing. Like there's a case somewhere in Florida. It might have been like Miami or something, where there's like a someone who's on the spectrum and was nonverbal, and like there's a violent interaction with the police because the poor guy with autism didn't really know how to interact properly. That the helper was trying to de-escalate the situation. The police officers just like were not sure how to react. Like just
Yeah.
and just totally inappropriate, escalated the situation, became violent, like just awful.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like we're spending a lot of time just bashing on police officers, but
Yeah.
also, yeah.
And then Charlie, in previous comments, says I'm working on making a video about interactions between law enforcement and brain injured people. Yeah, and yeah, well, it's about like, but it's important though, right? Again, like libertarians generally, we talk about like we have given law enforcement the power of like the legitimate monopoly on violence, right? In that
Right.
like they can use violence to go and stop other people who may be violent and are allowed to do that within the system in a way that like if we did that, it'd be like a vigilante action. Like if we see someone in most circumstances in a situation we are not involved in, and we suspect them of being a murderer or a criminal or whatever, and we use violence against them, there will probably be legal consequences for us, other than like specifically defined circumstances
I,
where our lives are in danger.
yeah, there's a local case here up in New Hartford, New York, okay, where a guy in Applebee's
Oh, the guy
stopped.
trying to stab people in
He was
Applebee's,
stabbing
right?
people in the face like he cut somebody, and a guy with a weapon stopped him.
Yeah.
That guy literally is due for charges, okay, under New
Yeah.
York state law, period. Now they haven't charged him. I hope that they don't. I'm not advocating for charges, but I'm saying that the law in New York state is very clear. This guy probably shouldn't have had a gun in that Applebee's. I don't think Applebee's is a big, hey, come on in with your gun kind of
Yeah,
place with a
which
big
you
sign.
gotta.
So if
Yeah.
it wasn't tagged off as a place like that, number one, that guy was carrying illegally in that Applebee's according to New York state law, which is very confusing. Number two,
Mm,
he pulled his weapon in a public place. That I believe is also a violation of New York state law. So
yeah.
here we go. Like this is it's a disaster. The lack of freedom in New York state.
Right. Yeah. And so like you create all these like you can go to jail for a very long time for intervening even in a way that may save someone's life or many people's lives in New York State. And so I've seen that happen to, you know, people I'm close to as well who like they face some serious consequences for that. Like could have faced jail time, but they end up just like having their weapon taken away for a very long time because they intervened in a situation where the person who had the consequences was afraid that someone else was going to beat someone to death, right? Like it was happening in front of them. And
Yeah, yeah, no, that's a real that's what guns are for, right? Like
yeah,
to protect
exactly. Right.
things. Like
But he wasn't in danger. So, and didn't retreat. And yeah.
yeah,
So, but yeah, no. And yeah, I'm familiar with that. I'm from that area. I used to live right on the edge of New Hartford, in New York Mills. Like I could
yeah,
walk 30
I know where
feet
New
and be in
York
New
Mills is.
Hartford.
I went into the Chipotle in New Hartford. I had the most interesting experience. I get into Chipotle, I get through the line, I get my food. There's kind of a line building up, and then all of a sudden, the people behind the counter start yelling at every new person that comes in, saying, "We're only doing online orders now. Get out!" And I'm like, they weren't quite as impolite as that, but I'd never seen that before. And I'm like, everybody seems to be pretty happy waiting online. I don't know why you just don't just keep pumping out the food and making money. But
That happened at a Starbucks near me. Like
really,
similar thing. It was because of online orders. Someone ordered like 30 coffees or something, and they got way behind, and then the store filled up, and they're like, you know what? We're closing the store. Everyone out.
no, that doesn't make any sense to me, man. I
Yeah.
got to be
They got
honest.
overwhelmed. I was like, man, I'm glad we got our coffee, but a bunch of people like walked up and they're like, are they closed? Why are they? It's like Sunday morning. Why are they closed? No, no,
I don't know.
got too busy.
So, Jared, it's the cold snap hasn't hit here yet. It was like 25, 30 today. Tomorrow in the afternoon through Saturday afternoon, it's supposed to be brutal. Like Friday night is going to be like 13 below zero or something.
Yeah.
My well's probably going to freeze up. It's going to be miserable. I have had whatever. It's going to be a nightmare. But
Yeah,
I'm
no,
looking forward to it because God, it's fun fixing it.
you're looking forward to fixing your well.
No, I've done it like 3 years. I've had it freeze so bad that my pump blew up, right? Like, it
Oof.
it's so hard to get water going again after that. It's a nightmare. And it costs,
Oh,
like, $1,000. A new well pump costs a lot of money.
wow.
So, anyways, but I've
Yeah.
had to
Well,
do it.
hopefully
I
that
know I
doesn't
can.
happen.
I could do some preventative stuff, like put an extra heater down there for a couple days, but that's expensive. Electricity is expensive. I'm gonna actually put an extra heater down there.
You gotta set up some solar power on your own property, and
I have the worst setup for solar power. I would love to do it, but there's big tall trees everywhere. I'm at the low side of a bank to my south, like so it drops like 20 feet down to my house. I don't get a ton of sun other than down by the lake, which works
clear
out.
all your trees.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be no
So
negative consequences of that.
yeah, trees. We need them. I can't cut trees.
Oh, all right. Let's get back to the show. We'll
Oh
get
yeah,
back
let's
in
do
10 seconds. We'll do some fake news. We'll go back in 5. It's fake news. Thursday, Tuesday. It's one today. We're doing fake news, guys. Which
It's
here today, joined by Tim, the alleged broadcast. No, shut that off.
allegedly.
The alleged broadcast journalists to bring us the news of the day. Real, fake, who knows? We'll see. We'll see. So yeah, Tim, you want to go first? You want me to go first?
I want you to go first because mine is a visual one that I've got to queue up for the online audience. So you go first.
Gonna
I'll
be
keep it
great
quick.
for the radio show. Well,
It'll work. I'll make it work for the radio show. I will.
All right. Yeah, no problem. So all right, so my news item, you tell me if it's real or fake. Did a Now you probably heard about some of the tech company layoffs, right? Like a few companies just laying off folks. Did
Oh
one
yeah.
of the tech companies use Chat GPT to construct a layoff email and then ask Chat GPT to include a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. in that layoff email?
Oh my God. I hope so. I hope they did. I hope they did. That's so awesome. I'm gonna go. Look, uh, this news is too good. It's got to be real news, man. It's got to be real news.
Well, sort of. Right. There are parts of it that are real, and there are parts of it that are that I've kind of made up a little bit. And
All right.
kind of mix two stories. So the part of it that is real is that there really was a tech CEO who put out a email that was it was a lot long. It wasn't written by Chat GPT. She really wrote it. And it was like 1,200 words or something. And it did include a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. Is a pager duty. Yeah, pager duty. Put out a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. Said it was tough times. The quotes from the email. Let's see if I can pull that up again because I accidentally closed it out. But it is the exact same thing as what Chat GPT produced when people prompted it to produce an email laying off 7% of your workforce and include a Martin Luther King Jr. quote. And the quote was, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and inconvenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." That's the quote they used.
That's so cheesy, though. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
like imagine getting a layoff email and you're trying to get you get inspirational quotes from Martin Luther King Jr. about how you're losing your job and 7% of people are losing their jobs.
Times are tough. 2 credit cards just aren't enough. That's what I would put in my layoff email. Good luck.
Yeah, right.
What is this virtue signaling even when you're like laying people off? I mean, it's just nonstop, bro.
No, yeah,
That's the
and
thing.
I said the Chat GPT like composed email had at least the virtue of being much shorter, right? It's like a 5-paragraph thing. But like similar, it's like the actual like PagerDuty email also sounded robotic and terrible, but it was much longer. And then people started messing with the prompt too, and they started doing things like, okay, same email, but make sure to include an inspiring quote from Stalin. Same email, but make sure you praise Thanos in the
Nice.
email.
I'll praise George Thanos all day long. I love that guy, man.
No, not George Santos. Thanos, the Marvel villain.
Oh, Thanos.
I mean,
No,
they
him
could
I
have
hate.
done that too.
Yeah, no, I hate that guy.
Yeah, no, but yeah, the Stalin quote they pull is, "We must learn to think and act as a single collective body." And I'm promoting my family members and laying off 7% of the workforce.
Oh God, that's
Uh,
so funny. Um, so it was a mishmash. I like those. Those are good. Kevin, a recent Fox News survey ranked, and I'm showing it on the screen for you guys who might want to join us in the future on Tuesday nights. I am showing it on the screen. The greatest threats to world peace ranked. As you can see by the Chiron, it's a legitimate Fox News situation. But
allegedly.
in last place, the leader of China, Xi Jinping. In fourth place, Vladimir Putin. In first place or third place, Ali Khamenei. I suppose that's the Iranian
Yeah.
mullah. In second place, Kim Jong Un. And Kevin, in first place, I don't think anybody's going to be surprised by this. White, and I'm going to add a word, American women, the greatest threat to world peace. Do you think this is real news or fake news?
Well, for those who don't have the benefit of seeing the screen, it just says white women.
Oh, I
So,
added
like,
American.
did the survey specify white American women? Are you making that part up?
I did extrapolate a little bit. I do feel like perhaps the greatest threat to world peace is white American women, but perhaps not. Is this real news or is this fake news?
This feels fake. I don't know, like,
It's
is it,
it's one of those things where you think maybe it's true, but probably nobody really did the survey, right?
I
No,
believe someone may have done this survey, and the Germans, known for being jokesters, obviously, just
I
picked the
I
most
actually
hilarious response.
I think it's a Reddit meme where you can just kind of add a picture and it will go into the number one slot.
Yeah,
At one point it was about Donald Trump, and there was a legitimate German survey that placed Donald Trump number one. Perhaps even that part may have been fake, but it overall this is just a fun meme that I shared on my page, and I thought we'd
yeah.
get a kick out of it.
No, so I just looked it up. So yeah, the survey was real, but 41% chose Donald Trump, not white women.
I'm just
I
saying.
mean, yeah, still a little bit silly another way. Like, it's weird. Like in Germany, like, why would you? Is this taken recently? Why would you feel that Donald Trump is more of a threat than Vladimir Putin? Like,
No,
literally, he's invading a country, 2 countries over. Come on.
I believe it would probably end differently. I believe this is from 2020, 2019, something like that when this first
Oh, it's
went on.
2019. Yeah, I just looked it
All
up.
right.
There you go. So,
Oh,
2019, obviously, Donald Trump, greatest threat to world peace. Like, no,
we
no
we
contest.
we got to the
Um,
bottom of it. That was when he was legitimately pulling out of Syria, if I remember correctly. So he was a threat to world peace, and complaining about paying money to NATO. So those two things, legitimate threats to world peace.
well, it's got that. All right, man. But by the way, I see you had a survey on your page as well. How did that go? How did that turn out
Which
on
one? The
your
one on Twitter?
the one on Twitter? Tell me about it.
Which I have a couple going. Which one are you talking about? I have one. I decided to
I
ask
think it's
Twitter.
the flat Earth one. I was gonna make fun of you for, but
Hang on, my wife gave away 10 pounds of beef to somebody at work, and so I decided to ask Twitter if my wife, in fact, is what is wrong with my wife? Is she crazy? And pretty much everybody said that she's just fine, and that was a decent thing to do. So
that is a nice thing to do.
yeah, the one. Let's see. I have one where is the Earth flat or is it a globe? And Kevin, sometimes you just got to put in that disclaimer of you know, perhaps the question itself is baloney or malarkey. So about 7% of the people believe that the Earth is flat. Somewhere around 42% think the Earth is a globe, but approximately 53% of the people agree with the fact that birds aren't real. So that's how surveys.
That's fair. That is the answer that I chose to your survey.
Is it? All right, that's the one
Birds
that makes
aren't
the most sense, really.
Yeah, no, it's I had to pick that one. All right, I do have another fake news item. I need to stall a bit to be able to pull it up. Did the AP style book cancel the word the? We're not allowed to use the anymore. Definite articles.
The AP
Real
style
news or
book
fake
is-
news?
The AP style book has been all over Twitter with some interesting things. Like they said we shouldn't be using words like the French in conversation. And it's like, I'm like, well, the cheese eating surrender monkeys that's okay. I'll use that instead when I'm talking about the French. But yeah, I could see where they would come up with a suggestion to not use a definitive article, though I'm hoping this is fake news, really.
So it is real news. They really did do this. It isn't canceling the whatever everywhere, but the actual tweet says we recommend avoiding general and often dehumanizing the labels such as the poor, the mentally ill, the French, the disabled, the college educated. Instead, use wording such as people with mental illnesses and use these descriptions only when clearly relevant.
The poor,
poor.
the pores. Stop being
poor.
poor. That's all there is to it. That's what I want to say.
Stop it. That's it. That's the response to this. Yeah. To be fair to the French, they found this hilarious, and they did a screenshot saying "Embassy of Frenchness in the U.S." So guess this is us now.
Yeah.
And then AP replied to it, said the use of the French in this tweet by AP was inappropriate and caused unintended offense. An updated tweet is coming.
Oh, it's the amazing culture that you can get if you're on Twitter, guys. Like they're there for us. That's it. They're out looking out for us every day. Every day.
Yeah, so I sort of get like there are ways like you can use it, and it's like I don't know how it goes as far as say the poor. It's not something I would say. It sounds a little bit odd to me, but the French, that kills me.
When I did read it. It didn't sink all the way in, but it's humorous, really. Like very Marxian, but lighthearted Marxian. Like
this one bad. This is not as bad as like remember that like that Stanford list of banned words that came out not too long ago, banned phrases. Like, all right, you can't use circle the wagons anymore.
Yeah. You can't use field of expertise anymore, right? You have to use some sort of long word that starts with a P. I can't even remember what it is.
I forget what it was. I don't know. Like
it's like to keep us guessing and to keep us on edge and to prove that they have value somehow. That the elite intellectuals of society have value. They can help us with our language and achieve the goals of the common good. I mean, I don't know.
Some of these, I don't know what they accomplished. Like there's some of them, let's listen to a podcast they're making fun. Like hip hip hooray was one that they banned because like there's a similar sounding German phrase that like was used during like Nazi times. Not the same phrase, just like a similar sounding phrase. That's it. Someone might be offended by a something similar to hip hip hooray. What?
Yeah.
I don't know where you're going with that one.
I don't know.
So like you just gotta laugh at it, right? It's like, all right, like
you gotta laugh at
IT department puts out this like list of phrases you can't use. I don't know, like there are certain things I get why, like maybe it's not great to say them anymore, but they I don't know, like can't use
Yeah,
I saw this. I saw this the other day on like LinkedIn too. Like people talking about like, hey, you shouldn't use like pull the trigger anymore. It's violent language. I don't know.
I'm kind of tired of pretending that gun control isn't fascism, racism, and bigotry. So I don't know. Like that stuff makes me mad. So I don't know. You're gonna get me on a rant here if we're not careful.
We only got a minute left, so if you must rant, you've got to save it for
Gun
the post
control.
radio show.
Yes, gun control is racism, bigotry, and economic violence. There, I said it.
Good. No, a good rant should be succinct. You could put that in a tweet. Like that's. I think you have before.
Trust me, pretty much. That's an angle I've been working. I've had it.
Yeah, we are out of time for the radio show. Thanks to everyone who's listening on WYSL on Thursday evening. The online show will probably go for a couple more minutes. Leave your comments if you want to participate. But thanks again for listening tonight on WYSL. Have a wonderful, wonderful night, folks. Take care. All right. Play the outro. Nice. You can't circle the wagons, but we can circle back. I know, but Buffalo Bills area, like circle the wagons is just a thing. Like we keep saying.
Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills, except everybody circles the wagons better than the Buffalo Bills. And
oh my God,
nobody makes me hate football more than the Buffalo Bills. Like literally, Colin Kaepernick and the stuff he did. It's not even a close second. Like I begrudgingly respected him. The Bills have disappointed me forever, Kevin, forever. It's just.
As you can tell, folks, Tim is your typical Bills fan.
Yeah.
Tim, you've probably been a Bills fan long enough to know this was coming. Come on, man. It's still fresh to me. Like I wasn't watching football in the early 90s,
Oh, man. First of all, Jim Kelly was the greatest quarterback of all time. Honest to God, the guy was a monster. He was huge. He was all over, and he was a big dude. Like he would send linebackers to the ground when he decided to run. He was an amazing athlete.
Josh Allen,
huh? Josh is okay, dude. Like, look, he's okay.
Dude, Josh Allen's amazing. I'm not knocking Jim Kelly. Jim Kelly's incredible.
Yeah,
but
the issue, guys, in New York State, you've heard me say it before. I'm going to say it again. The taxation on elite athletes in New York leaves them not enough money for depth and breadth. And that's why Cincinnati can have 3 offensive linemen injured and still hold off the Bills defense. Like it's a money issue, it's a taxation issue, and it's why New York is perennially like we're never going to be good again until we solve this issue. Never.
New York's only team.
They are.
Shelly beat me to it too. The Bills are the only football team located in New York.
You know why those other teams are in New Jersey? Taxes are cheaper. That's it.
Probably.
No, it is.
The Jets and
the history of it. Why they
Jets
made the deal.
Giants. Yeah.
If those stadiums were in Manhattan, the property taxes would have to be XYZ.
Oh,
they
sure.
did it over the border so that the property taxes could be substantially lower.
And then they don't have real, like the professional athlete tax and yeah.
We have the highest professional athlete, the elite athlete tax, higher than California, guys.
I mean, typically, I don't think that's why the Bills lost the Bengals in the divisional round. Like, I don't know what
Sean McDermott. Come on, man, that guy's fine.
He's fine. They weren't ready. Ken Dorsey was like thinking about his head coach interviews, man. Like, I don't know. I know I'm not a sports guy. So I don't know. Like I'm just like kind of like mad and confused like everyone else. Like, man, y'all are playing like so well for so long, and then
the snow. They couldn't even play in the snow. The Bills couldn't play in the snow.
If we're gonna subsidize the heck out of a Bills stadium, why aren't they building a dome, Tim? We're already spending all the money. I might as well build the dome.
Because it's not about football, Kevin. It's about making your friends rich. These things, like that's why we got to get into politics.
If they're going to make their friends rich, they can at least build a dome. That's what I'm saying.
They don't have any. They don't know any dome contractors, Kevin. It's not. That's it. And purportedly, the Bills used to have an
know what
advantage.
they're doing. Come on,
before global warming, the Bills used to have an advantage when they'd have home games in the snow. But now it's so rare that they have to play in the snow that obviously they can't prepare.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, I don't know. Like they like,
I
did
thought
they
I'd
not
throw
bring
that
the
out.
right cleats? They were sliding around. I don't know. I won't. It's fine. I didn't even end up like watching a lot of that game because I had like a volleyball game in the middle of it. And initially, I
Yeah.
was like quite mad about the fact that I had a volleyball game in the middle of it and I wasn't going to get to watch. But I would have just been in so much more of a worse mood if I got to watch that whole second half.
Oh,
Just
it was brutal, man. It was brutal. I guess I don't really watch a lot of football. Um, and I do try to watch the Bills once in a while, right? My kid does a lot of stuff on the weekends. That's pretty much takes up my whole weekend. And then I'd rather putter around my house than sit down on a Sunday afternoon and watch 3 hours worth of football. But I made an effort to watch a few of the Bills games this year. I was a little bit excited about the possibilities that this is going to be the year that we go back to the Super Bowl.
that's when they get you.
Oh, they
As
do.
soon as you start believing,
Oh,
they
it's so
crush you.
they crushed me. They crushed me again. And I'm telling you, like the heyday, Jim Kelly never being able to convert into a win for Super Bowl. And then what they did to Flutie, guys, I've never quite gotten over that either. Flutie takes them to the playoffs, and they bench him for Frank Reich, who did nothing. No offense, Frank was obviously like on paper the better athlete, but Flutie got him there, and Flutie was leading that town in a big way. The whole state, he was great. People love that guy. Like he was 5'7", Kevin, and that was being generous. Like I was taller than Doug Flutie, and he was like taking the Bills to the playoffs.
It's funny. I don't know much about like the Buffalo Bills until I started watching in like 2015
That's not
or
even
so.
your kid. Like that's nothing.
Yeah. The only thing I know about Doug Flutie is like they re-released Flutie Flakes at Wegmans a couple years back, so I bought some. But
Yeah. The whole town was going crazy for Flutie, and they benched him. Marv Levy was hard nosed. He's just like, these are the numbers. Rice should lead us. That's it. He's the future.
and that's same Frank Reich, who's now going to be like the coach of the Panthers or whatever, right?
That's him.
Yeah.
He came out of college. He was good. Had above average stats. He was big. He was strong. He could see over the line, but Flutie couldn't see over the line. But the defense couldn't see him, and he was lightning fast. So it was a trade off.
Anyway, I know. Like, how do we spend the last 10 minutes talking about Buffalo Bills for some reason on our politics show?
I don't know.
A week after they've already been eliminated.
Because I'm a Bills fan and I'm disappointed, and I'm not even going to pick another team. Normally, after the Bills are out, I pick another team. And I tell this story about how at Christmas, like sometimes it's the Green Bay Packers. Christmas when I was 6 years old, my mom got me a Green Bay Packers, jersey. It's completely made up, and people like who follow along my garbage know that I'm making this story up. And whatever. I'm not even going to do that this year. I'm not going to pretend that I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan. I'm not going to do it. I'm not.
Root
I
for
hate
the Chiefs or the Eagles?
Huh?
The
Eagles. Like the Eagles. Pshaw. I'd rather the Cowboys were there, to be honest with you.
Well, Cowboys could not handle it.
They ain't there. Them boys ain't there.
Cowboys fans are similar to Bills fans in that regard.
I know. The Cowboys used to be great too, man. That's where these people that are my age that love the Cowboys or close to my age, the Cowboys used to be great. They were America's team, man.
Yeah.
Now look at them.
Heyday of the 90s.
That's right. The 90s was a great time, Kevin. I'm telling you. All you guys that lived in the 90s know that I'm telling you the truth. The 90s was prime time.
I believe you. I don't know. Seemed good to me, but I was a kid, so what do I know? I know nothing. But all right. Anyway, I don't know. We should probably call it a night, I suppose.
We should.
But thanks everyone who is listening today. Thanks for everyone who stuck around. We'll be back same time next week, Tuesdays, 9 p.m. Shelly says, since Hoke will spend our money on the stadium, they're now literally our Bills.
That's a good play on words, Shelly. Well done.
Love it. Love it. All right. Have a nice night, folks. Take care.